kind of fire melts stone?
Dragonfire.
Harrenhal was once a majestic castle, but eventually got reduced to haunting ruins. It carries a dark reputation because of its cursed and sinister legacy. It is a fact that every house granted control of Harrenhal has faced a mysterious extinction, and the individuals who held its lordship found themselves meeting the stranger in due course of time. It is believed that the castle of Harrenhal punished the occupants for their overreaching ambition. Houses or knights without their own castles or substantial holdings have often been given the lordship of Harrenhal, inevitably raising them to a higher status. And Harrenhal does not like up-jumpers. But is it truly plausible that every lord or lady who held Harrenhal died because of excessive ambition? That is exactly what we will try to find out in this video. Number 1. Did Harren the Black use human blood and sacrificed men to build the castle? Harrenhal, the formidable fortress that looms over the shores of the God's Eye, was conceived and constructed by Harren the Black, the last patriarch of House Hor. The roots of Harrenhal's creation can be traced back to Harren's grandfather, Harwin Hor, who became the first Ironborn king to conquer the Riverlands and establish dominion as the king of the Isle and Rivers. However, Harren the Black, driven by his ambitious desires for a seat befitting his status as a king, embarked on a single-minded mission to construct a castle that would surpass all others in Westeros. And thus began the construction of Harrenhal, which spanned 40 arduous years, during which time Harren's armies ravaged neighboring lands, pillaging resources such as stone, lumber, gold, and laborers. Countless captives perished in the quarries, toiling under the weight of their chains or laboring on the colossal towers. The castle's construction necessitated the felling of ancient virewoods, sacred trees that had stood for millennia, repurposed as beams and rafters for Harrenhal. The exorbitant costs of material and labor left both the Riverlands and the Iron Islands impoverished, as Harren's grand vision drained their resources. Harrenhal's location on the shores of God's Eye, which houses the Isle of Faces, is another issue. Legends speak of virewood trees were desecrated for the castle's construction, and there's a possibility of human blood being mixed with the mortar. Maybe Harren the Black didn't actually use blood, but he may have performed sinister rituals and blood sacrifices during the construction. Furthermore, there are stories that say Harren practiced abominable acts like torture, attempts at necromancy, etc., within the castle chambers, lending credence to the haunting reputation that plagues Harrenhal. Lastly, it is widely believed that supernatural forces were at play, which is probably another reason Aegon the Conqueror didn't leave any stone unturned to burn the stone castle's high towers.
I declare that you shall be granted the castle of Harrenhal, with all its attendant lands and incomes, to be held by your sons and grandsons from this day until the end of time.
You honor me beyond words, your grace.
Harrenhal is cursed.
Number 2. The curse kills in many ways. No good can come from a castle tainted by human blood. But there's more. Mad Lady Lothston supposedly used a giant bat to abduct children so that she could put them in her kettle as some ingredient for a demonic stew. Another eerie tale suggests that the spirits of Black Harren and his ill-fated children still roam the castle's hallways, their shadows forever cast amidst the fires that consumed them. Additionally, other stories recount the mysterious disappearance of slaves within the castle, never to be found again. The curse of Harrenhal seems to spare no one, not even the lords. For instance, Lord Lucas Harroway met a tragic end during the reign of Maegor the Cruel, while his successor, Ser Walton Towers, perished from his injuries a mere month after assuming the position. The curse did not discriminate against Targaryens either, as Queen Rhaena was sent to Harrenhal on the orders of King Jaehaerys I Targaryen, only to meet her demise within its haunted walls. The castle's subsequent ownership by House Strong brought further tragedy, as both Harwin and Lord Lionel perished in a devastating fire. House of the Dragon made it abundantly clear that their deaths was the work of Larys Strong, and not the curse of the castle or a vengeful ghost. So, even without the curse, people meet their sad ends, and that's a curious thing. Jaime Lannister once remarked that the castle has endured more tragedy within its short existence than Casterly Rock has witnessed in its long history spanning thousands of years. In the timeline of Game of Thrones, Harrenhal passed through the hands of various lords. Shella Went, the sole surviving member of House Went, initially held the castle until Tywin Lannister seized control. Later, Janos Slynt, Aemery Lorch, and Roose Bolton each took their turn as lord of the cursed fortress, with each facing dire circumstances. Slynt never went to the castle, but owned it for a while, and was decapitated by the Lord Commander for disobedience. Aemery Lorch was killed by Jaqen H'ghar, the Faceless Man, and Roose Bolton was murdered by his own son. In fact, Bolton's first trueborn child was also killed by Ramsay. The castle eventually fell into the hands of Lord Peter Baelish during King Joffrey's reign. Even someone as cunning as Baelish was unable to escape the curse's grip, meeting his demise at the hands of Arya Stark after his nefarious schemes involving the murder of Eddard Stark came to light. Number 3. The Witch Queen Alice Rivers, the strangest occupant of Harrenhal after Harren the Black. Alice Rivers, as described by Grand Maester Muncan, Septon Eustace, and the Fool Mushroom, is believed to be a bastard daughter of Lord Lionel Strong. However, the identity of her mother remains unknown. Muncan suggests that Alice was a serving wench with an interest in potions, while Eustace claims she was a woods witch. Mushroom, however, contradicts these accounts, stating that Alice belonged to an older generation and served as a wet nurse to Lionel's sons, Harwin and Larys, and possibly even Lord Lionel himself. Mushroom further embellishes his tale, claiming that Alice was an enchantress who bathed in maiden's blood to maintain her youthful appearance. While Eustace and Muncan dismiss Mushroom's fantastical claims, they do acknowledge that Alice appeared remarkably young for her age, despite being at least 40 when the Dance of the Dragons began. During the Dance of the Dragons, Alice survived the attack on Harrenhal by Prince Daemon Targaryen and the Blacks. But the Greens soon occupied the cursed castle, and Prince Aemon Targaryen spared Alice's life and took her as his lover, conveniently claiming her as his spoils of war. Mushroom suggests that Alice used potions to entice Heir Criston Cole in addition to her relationship with Aemond. However, Eustace disputes this claim. As Aemond burned the Riverlands with his dragon Vhagar, Alice remained at Harrenhal. Seeing the castle without any strong defense, Lady Sabitha Frey later seized the castle, but Alice, claiming to be pregnant with Aemond's child, managed to escape with him when he returned. Later, Alice accompanied Aemond to confront Prince Daemon and his dragon Caraxes, as she claimed to have seen their location in her visions. This is one of the reasons why people say that Alice could have been Lady Melisandre's past. Ultimately, Aemond and Daemon perished in their duel, leaving a pregnant Alice behind atop Kingspire Tower in Harrenhal to witness the battle above the God's Eye. In 132 AC, during King Aegon III's regency, a group of rapists, robbers, and bandits gathered in the ruins of Harrenhal, led by a woman believed to be a sorceress witch queen. Acting upon the orders of Ser Tywin Lannister, who was then serving as the Hand of the King, Ser Regis Groves, and Ser Daemon Darry set out with 100 men to reclaim the castle. Upon their arrival, they discovered that the alleged witch queen was in fact Alice Rivers, who claimed to be the widow of Prince Aemon Targaryen. Alice presented a young boy as their trueborn son, and the rightful ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. Insults were exchanged, and Regis met a sudden and mysterious demise, with conflicting accounts attributing it to dark magic, crossbowmen, or slingers. Alice and her followers then mounted their horses and overpowered the royalist forces, with Ser Daemon Darry leading 32 men back to Castle Darry. The following day, Alice sent a captured loyalist as a messenger to Darry. This messenger claimed to be cursed by Alice, doomed to die if anyone laughed at his story. According to his account, Alice had proclaimed that anyone approaching Harrenhal without submitting to her would meet their demise. He also claimed to have witnessed a dragon within the castle. Despite Daemon's assurance that no one would ridicule the messenger, an onlooker's laughter proved fatal, as the messenger swiftly choked to death, with some witnesses noticing marks on his throat resembling a woman's fingers. Lord Unwin Peake expressed skepticism regarding Daemon's accounts of magic and dragons, leading the regents to conclude that a larger force would be necessary to reclaim Harrenhal. However, their plans were disrupted by a winter fever outbreak in 133 AC, diverting their attention. Number 4. Why is Harrenhal more than just a killer castle in House of the Dragon? The illustrious castle of Harrenhal will play a more pivotal role in House of the Dragon than just a castle known for its less than hospitable reputation of mercilessly dispatching its occupants. The castle is strategically important as a stronghold for Rhaenyra's Blacks during the tumultuous Targaryen civil war. In the pages of the books that inspired the show, Harrenhal emerges as a formidable bastion for the Black faction. When the conflict erupted, Daemon mounted his dragon Caraxes and swooped down upon Harrenhal. Faced with the choice between certain ruin and swift surrender, Simon, the Castellan of Harrenhal, wisely opted for the latter, allowing Daemon to seize control of the fortress. Utilizing Harrenhal as a launching pad for offensives, Daemon used the castle as his base for a while. However, Daemon has to leave Harrenhal, which was when Aemon Targaryen arrived at Harrenhal. He found the imposing edifice bereft of any defenders, resembling a forsaken ghost town. In a particularly unfortunate turn of events for Simon and his kin, they fell victim to Aemon's wrath, undoubtedly in a rather unpleasant and regrettable fashion. As fate would have it, the two Targaryen princes, Aemond and Daemon, eventually clashed in a titanic battle over God's Eye. The confrontation was nothing short of an epic spectacle, claiming the lives of both princely combatants, as well as their mighty dragon companions, Vhagar and Caraxes. In conclusion, while Harrenhal may be notorious for its penchant for violence, it also stands as a crucial linchpin in the power struggle of House of the Dragon as well as Game of Thrones. Its significance as a stronghold, a stage for dramatic confrontations, and an unfortunate final resting place for some ill-fated souls makes it an indispensable piece in the intricate and enthralling epic. Let me know what you thought about this video and consider subscribing for more such content. Thanks, and have a good day.